India and China are on the brink of war, and this is not a story that's getting enough coverage. But listen, it's so in line with how terrible 2020 has been, so of course this was going to happen. So there's a border incident involving deaths a few days ago. It's in a region of the Himalayas. Let's take a look at what went down.
In the remote western Himalayas, there is little evidence of what led to Indian and Chinese soldiers engaging in a deadly brawl at their border on Monday. India's army said there were casualties on both sides, but not a shot was fired. These are Indian military reinforcements destined for the border shortly after. India and China share the world's longest unmarked border. In recent months, both sides have upped their military presence, tensions increasing over who owns what land. The border has been disputed since India and China went to war in 1962. The line in yellow is the so-called line of actual control, but there are several disputed areas on either side. One of the main ones is Aksai Chin, which is claimed by India but administered by China. India has appeared confident in a diplomatic resolution. Just on Saturday, India's army chief said this.
The entire situation along our borders with China is under control. We are having a series of talks.
The Chinese also thought dialogue was working, but blame India for the deadly breakdown.
On June 6, border forces of the two countries had commander-level talks and reached a consensus on easing the situation in the border area. However, it was shocking that the Indian forces violated the consensus, crossing the border twice to carry out illegal activities and provoking attacks on Chinese soldiers.
Indian officials have refuted that they caused the escalation.
This time what I see is a more aggressive posture by the Chinese, which looks like a deliberate policy to create confusion between India, or rather deteriorate the relationship between India and China at the highest level.
Leh is a quiet town on the Indian side of the border. Outside of military helicopters, residents have few clues behind the tension on their doorstep.
Officials aren't releasing any statement regarding the standoff that is going on at the border, so rumours spread, which has created fear among the people. People living near the border are more scared. The cellular network in the area has also been cut off and no information is coming through.
The deadly skirmishes raising the stakes for Beijing and New Delhi over where their vast frontiers begin and end. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
And we don't have very many details, but we know not a shot was fired and a bunch of people died anyway. Like, what is going on here? So, listen, this is one of those instances where all you can say is that I really hope that diplomacy and cooler heads prevail, because they have to prevail for continued peace. And if they don't prevail, then we're in trouble, because these are two giant countries and pretty powerful countries at that. So this is why, like, right-wing nationalism is so dangerous. Some people would take issue with calling China right-wing, but I would say that they're, at the very least, they're authoritarian nationalists. I think it's fair to call it that. The Chinese Communist Party is authoritarian and nationalist. So you have India and Modi. Modi is a right-wing nationalist, and as a general rule, right-wing nationalists are expansionist. Now, that's not all of them. There are instances of right-wing nationalists who are more isolationist and protectionist, but there are many right-wing nationalists who are expansionist, and they have goals of, like, expanding their sphere of influence. So take Erdogan, for example, in Turkey. Same thing. He's a right-wing nationalist and he's expansionist. I'm sure in his heart of hearts, he would love to bring back the Ottoman Empire. You have Modi, who's a right-wing nationalist, and, he doesn't want any threat to his dominance of the region, his power and his authority. And he's, a Hindu nationalist as well, like a Hindu extremist. And then you have Xi Jinping, and listen, they're doing the Belt and Road Initiative right now. And that's an empire through debt kind of scheme. So what they're doing is they want to build up infrastructure in all these surrounding areas. And then you build up infrastructure and you enter into business agreements with all these countries. And, the long-term goal is to have China become the world's sole superpower. And they're going about it in an intelligent way. The United States, what we're doing now is we start wars with everybody and we violently overthrow governments. What they're doing is much more intelligent in the sense that they're offering people material well-being in exchange for business relationships and in exchange for, some degree of subservience and understanding where they are in the pecking order. So you have this infrastructure being built in a bunch of places from China, and China's expanding as a result of that. Their sphere of influence is expanding. And of course, Donald Trump is too stupid to know how to handle all this stuff or deal with all this stuff or take a position on it or what have you. But, listen, when you have Modi, a right-wing nationalist in India, and you have Xi Jinping, who's an authoritarian nationalist, and he's expansionist as well in China, and they're butting heads, I hope there is the ability to de-escalate, but who knows? Who knows? It's possible that they have their minds made up. That, Modi says, no, I govern this area, your border is there. And China goes, no, we disagree. In fact, we're building infrastructure in this area, and our border ends there, and you ain't gonna do Dickie McGee's acts about it because my military is more powerful than yours. So I hope that they can de-escalate, but honestly, my guess is they're both going to be hardliners about where they want the border to be, and they're not going to agree on it. And we just saw what Modi was doing in Kashmir, and we also see what China's doing in Hong Kong, right? So you have those are perfect examples and very comparable, where right-wing strongmen are like, yeah, we're going to change some stuff and we're going to have more power and influence, and then they act on it. And so, can you get two strongmen to sit down, negotiate something out, have a clear border, and then that's that and it's settled? I don't know, but I hope they can, because if we can't get that done, I shudder to think of the consequences.